So, what makes me cranky about The Great Wall? Matt Damon's disappearing, reappearing English accent. At least I think he's supposed to be an English accent since his name is William. But maybe he was going for Scottish or something. His body in the movie's a Spaniard, so at first I thought he was trying to do a Spanish, but it's so inconsistent as to be distracting. Fortunately, as this is an Asian movie, nobody talks that much. But when he did, I kept flashing back to Kevin Costner in Prince of Thieves, since this is a period piece featuring an Englishman who's really good with a bow and arrow, played by a guy who can't decide if he's using an English accent or not. Which should be the thing that people are actually upset about instead of the so-called whitewashing. The Chinese wanted him, so they got him, and man, would they have been better off just going with their own movie, as an hour and 40 minutes or so is just not enough time to tell both the story of this nameless order of Chinese warriors who defend the land against invading monsters, and the story of these two Westerners who stumble into that conflict while they're looking for black powder. There's so much backstory here that's just glossed over because we just don't have time for it, and I would much rather have learned more about how the hell the Chinese built this massive wall despite being attacked by an army of giant dragon-like monsters every 60 years. The explanation as to where the damn things come from in the first place is extraordinarily brief and raises more questions than it actually answers, to say nothing of them ever explaining why the Chinese army doesn't just track the monsters back to wherever they hang out for 60 years and kill them in their sleep or something. Nope, instead we gotta focus on Matt Damon learning to have loyalty to a singular cause or something. Fortunately, it's not quite Dances with Wolves, since Damon doesn't go full native or hook up with the pretty Asian general, even though it's certainly implied he'd like to, but it's a pretty similar framework overall. Oh, and Willem Dafoe is there to be crazy and also have a weird accent so we can have another subplot that goes nowhere and does nothing of import. I guess he's somewhat useful, since he does some translating for us every once in a while, so I suppose you can't count him out entirely. And that's another thing that annoys me about this movie. They do both subtitles for us and then have people in the movie translate for Damon and his buddy. They're at least smart enough not to have the English translations be word for word with the subtitles, but it's still exceedingly repetitive to watch the Chinese characters talk amongst themselves, then have Willem Dafoe or the Asian love interest summarize what we just read. I don't know why you wouldn't just pick one or the other. Either have Matt Damon know Chinese, since he's clearly been around the world, and subtitle it for us, or just have the characters do the translations. Either way, pick one. On the plus side, like many Asian epics, there's a ton of colorful stuff in this movie. I'm sure the costume department must have spent a fortune because they've got scores of very detailed armors in bright blues, reds, yellows, and purples. It's always cool to see that contrast, considering Western cinema seems to think the only colors you can use these days are black, brown, gray, and dark blue. Certainly makes the battle sequences visually interesting, even if they don't usually make much sense from a tactical perspective. Though, I suppose, since this is another army with a magic off button, the only real tactic that counts is trying to kill the leader. Why the hordes of monsters just stop and die rather than simply become uncoordinated rampaging beasts, I don't know, but this whole shtick got old right about when it happened to the Chitauri in the Avengers. And if you're upset that I spoiled the ending for you, well, it's not much of a spoiler because it's spelled out pretty early on, that's what they gotta do. And I'm about to tell you not to waste your time going to see this in the theater because it's not that good, so by the time you do see it, you'll probably forget anyway. Normally a big epic like this would be worth it for the visuals alone, but a good chunk of the CGI here is video game quality, so you'd actually be better off not having it blown up to big screen size. It's not an awful movie, but we just got the great John Wick 2 and Lego Batman movies, and you've seen this movie done before and done better. Unless you have some particular fetish for Asian cinema, and even then you're probably not going to be satisfied because half the movie is Matt Damon, you might as well just wait for this one to show up on TV. That's what I thought about The Great Wall, anyway. There's no giant wall around my channel, so your opinions are always welcome in the comments below. Even if you just want to berate and or mock me for my own terrible accents earlier, and or scream about cultural appropriation. And if you'd like to help the continuing war against dumb movie monsters, hit that like button, and then subscribe to my channel to get more of my reviews in the future.